thing the book says is to take off, excuse the noise from the heater, take off the end piece. And it says with the Crossroads Classic you're supposed to use pliers and pull them off. Well, I want to save these. So what I did was I used a regular end screwdriver and I started them loose. Then I took a hammer and I'm using the claw end and I slip it in there and I just knock them out pretty far and then they just pull off. So now I have an extra set of these. The next thing you want to do is take off your windshield. It'll make it easier to get to your housing. So there's 2 bolts on each side. Next I'm going to take the housing off. There's 2 screws up top and 2 down below. The Torx, and for down below it really helps if you have an extended Torx because it's too long to reach up there. So you want to use an extended Torx and take those bolts off and get to your cover. If I didn't mention, the windshield or the cover here is a 4 metric. I'm sorry, the cover for the headlight, and for the windshield these are 6 metric. There is a small opening here that the Torx will go through. You want to fit that through into the opening, loosen it. The other thing I want to make sure you tie is cover your fender so you don't scratch that up if you drop something. Nothing pisses you off more than a scratch that isn't necessary. As you can see, there's a lot of wires in here. This one's for the speedometer. This one's for the tack. I put a tack on here. That was really easy to do. Basically, you just change out the bracket, put the tack back in here. Now, my Crossroads, and I don't know if all of them, this is a 13, came with a bracket underneath that holds the switch for the bright, or the 2, not brights, but the 2 riding lights, and there's a blank area in it, so that's where I'm going to take out that blank and put in the switch for the heated grips. Okay, the directions tell you to slip a screwdriver between the bar and the grip to loosen the lube. So I'm going to do that next. Get that loose, get that grip off. So I stick the screwdriver in here, loosen it up, work my way around, breaking that glue off. Once you have it loose, you can turn it, and she'll come off. You gotta work it. Alright, so we got the left grip off. Alright, the new grips come with Torx screws. You just pull this back and you'll see them in there. Again, the directions tell you loosen it up. You'll loosen them both ends and then this will slide on. Then you tighten them back down. So we'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to show you that part of it. Now the nice thing about this is these wires will plug into each other on the grips, and then there's an extra wire that goes into that housing. Everything's pre-wired for you. So couldn't be easier. That Torx is a T15. So I've loosened the Torx. I've gone ahead and put this on, and you're going to want to leave the wire underneath. Now the kit comes with, it talks about taking apart these clamps here and putting on a new set to tie it down to. I'm just going to tie it to these wires with some black ties. So you don't have to do that either. Now those Torx screws will go in holes. There's a hole here and one on the opposite end. So you want to make sure when you put this on, you line that up with those holes, and your grip will be right where it belongs. One little tip, I took one of the Torx screws out, and I put this ice pick in one side. So now the other side will line up and I'll be able to tighten it up and then take this out and tighten the other one. So little tip to help you get them lined up. Those Torx heads are self-threading, so they're a little bit hard to turn in. And once you get it tight, you don't want to tighten it down real tight because that's a plastic piece underneath them. So get it fairly taut, and both sides are in now. I got the wire hanging down. I'll tighten it with ties later, but I'm running it through where they say in the tree. So that's all set for this side. Now the instructions don't tell you this. They tell you to take off the 3 screws under this housing to get the top off and be able to get the throttle and the cables. But to get to it, you got to get your cruise control out. There's 2 Phillips head screws and bolt nuts, okay? And to get to those, I'm going to have to cut this zip tie here that's holding the cable in. I'm just going to cut that and loosen these 2 screws, and that'll take this bottom piece off. Just a break. The really nice thing about this is the nuts stay on that, so it'll be easier to put back on there. All you got to do is put the screws in through the hole, get it on. So I've got that out of the way. Now I can reach these screws that are underneath, and again, they're Phillips heads. So when you take the first one off here, that comes loose, and then I move to the front one, and that's a long screw. You got to be careful, make sure you get it on the same way. So this comes off. There's one more Phillips screw under here, so I'll get that off next. So with those screws out of the way, this comes right off, and you can kind of lay it out of the way. Now you can get to your grips. So now we can see the cables here. There's one here, and there's one down below. So it's easy to turn it, loosen up your cable here with a small screwdriver and get it out of that notch. Make sure you keep your cables separated, and then you'll be able to put on your new grip. Okay, I got both out. Careful. You're ready to put on your new one. So the new heated grip is on. I got the cables back in place. Now I'm just going to reverse the process, put the housing back on, and then we'll run the wires. Another little tip, right here on this end is a small notch. You want to make sure you get that notch in the hole and then bring it up. Then you can screw this down. I already have the back one started. Okay, here underneath is the switch housing. What they say is extra you have to buy, but I didn't have to because, again, on the 13 it came with this bracket already in place. This is a blank, and this one controls the running lights. So the blank has 2 white clips on each side that you push together on each side, and that'll come out. I broke one off when I did the tack, but you can see one, and then there's 2 on the other side. Squeeze those and it'll come out. So that's what I'm going to do next, to get that blank out of there. So on the switch itself, you have a low and a high end, okay? Sorry, low is here, high is there. So it says attach the connector with the navy to the low end, the brown to the high, and the light blue in the middle. So I've done that ahead because it'll be easier to thread it through into that opening the way I want it, okay? So I think I'm going to put it this way, high and low. And we'll put her in and feed the wires through. Okay, so I've got the wires through, so they're going to come through this harness here also. So I'll bring them back through. We've got a nice clean fit. They'll all run together here. Again, here's a bit hanging off of this. So the next thing I do is again, these wires are loose from the grips. I'm going to run them through that opening there and this opening here, and it says to connect the 2 whites. So there's a clip on one end, so that's the way they go together, and you can tell by the color of the wires too. They only go one way. Clip those together. Next we're going to connect the spade bits. Okay, inside the wiring harness I found 3 loose wires here. There's a black, There's a blue and pink, and then there's another one there that's black and yellow. But anyhow, we're going to take this black and we're going to attach it to the black wire on this harness. Now it's confusing because it says the spade black wire, spade tip. Well, the spade tip has a red end to it, but it's a black wire, so that goes to the ground here. So we'll connect that up. Again, I want to make sure I'm not in the way of other wires. Okay, so we got that in there. Now it says attach the light blue spade bit with the blue and pink power wire. So that's what we found here. So that'll go in there. So now I've got these two attached. So next we take the male end of the brown to the female end of the brown. Put those together, and same with the dark blue. Okay, so we're wired up. So really that's all we have to do. The next thing I'll do is test it out, make sure the grips warm up, tie down the wires, tuck these back in, and put it back together. It's simple. I'm fairly handy, but this kind of stuff scares me, but they make it so simple. So don't be afraid to take it apart. Same with the tack. That was simple to put on. And search the forums, you'll find a good write-up that I put on there for that too. Well, I didn't put it, but there was a good write-up. So I have a link to it on the forum. So I hope that helps everyone.